If politicians were ever punished for lying, then depending on the severity of that punishment, there'd be no politicians left to serve. In fact, no one would be able to serve at all. Immanuel Kant was steadfast in believing that honesty is the policy that all should live by. However, politicians occasionally see themselves as the exception to that rule. From government secrets to confidential funds, there is a wealth of lies strung in braids of omission and overt deception. If in Kant's theory of deontology there exists a stringent rule that lying in any circumstance is wrong, then why should politicians be allowed to? Why should politicians go unpunished for lying? In the defense of politicians, lying is generally not considered a crime except under specific circumstances. This had been contested in the U.S. Supreme Court in 2012, when a former California County Water Board member, Javier Alvarez, was put to court for a certain lie. Mr. Alvarez had been found to tell many lies, including playing professional hockey, serving in the Marines, and rescuing an American ambassador during the Iranian hostage crisis. Of these lies, none were particularly illegal. The lie that got him into court was his claim that he had received the Congressional Medal of Honor, which would put his lie in violation of the Stolen Valor Act, originally passed in 2005, before being revised 8 years later. While it is a crime in the United States to falsely claim having received a medal, Alvarez appealed his conviction and in fact won in federal court. This was not the end of this ordeal, however, as it was taken and further appealed to the Supreme Court. An argument was posed by Solicitor General Donald Verrilli that the indicated lie would not fall under speech protected by the First Amendment right. Soon after such a claim, Verrilli was on the receiving end of a certain line of questioning. Does Congress reserve the right to criminalize lying with no intention of fraud or defamation? Certain examples were brought up by Justice Sonia Sotomayor regarding statements written upon signs by Vietnam War protesters saying, "I won a Purple Heart for killing babies," if the protester in fact did not win the medal. Verrilli rebutted that the position of the Supreme Court was that if lies were reasonably understood by its audiences as either a statement of fact or an exercise of political theater, then the legality of such a lie would depend on such parameters. As noted by Justice Sonia Sotomayor, it would be a dangerous precedent to set if the government were to decide the legitimacy or value of a lie. While Solicitor General Verrilli and Justice Kennedy sought to defend their position of criminalizing a certain set of lies, Chief Justice John Roberts wondered aloud to what end a lie could be criminalized. Would such criminalization be limited to lies one tells about themselves, or does it extend further to lies said by family members or friends? What of other false statements, asked Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, such as denying the occurrence of the Holocaust? Verrilli replied that the statements referred to by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg remain protected under First Amendment rights as they are thoroughly mired in ideological controversy, and that it differs from the discussed case as having won a medal is a specific and verifiable claim. It has been noted that in a few states, it is criminal for a politician to lie during a political campaign. However, such law does not extend to sitting politicians, and according to Verrilli, those laws could be considered unconstitutional for infringing on the campaigning politician's right to free speech. To return to Kant, he viewed lying in any form to be wrong under the argument that it is a robbery of one's autonomy, especially the autonomy of the one who is lied to. The purpose and the reason for the lie were, to Kant, secondary. When you, a person, lie, you are depriving the person you are lying to of the necessary information to make informed decisions about their life. When you, a politician, however, lie, you are depriving your constituents from making informed decisions about the lives of the whole including themselves, their family, their friends, and their community. It is different for a commercial entity to lie from a personal one, and even more so from a political entity. While a certain degree of lying is allowed in the commercial context, referred to as puffing, the First Amendment protects even statements that are considered inflammatory or offensive. An innumerable set of lies can be conjured in the mind that could fit the criteria posited by Verrilli. Should then those lies, everyday lies by everyday men, be criminalized too? Justice Kagan stated the fact that certain lies are protected under the same logic that truthful speech is protected. If there is no direct harm, nor any sort of personal gain to come from the lie, then why should it be a crime? Defense lawyer Libby conceded to this argument, stating that it would be difficult to justify law if it does not do either of the aforementioned. Following those same lines, it would be difficult to sanction punishments of politicians based on their lies if it is difficult enough to define what lies can be criminalized in both federal courts and the Supreme Court for the everyman, as well as the increased difficulty of exacting those punishments for sitting politicians to begin with. While it would be ideal to be able to punish politicians for their lies during the tenure of their political career, perhaps it is more apt to punish them afterward. A precedent is currently being set in the International Criminal Courts holding a former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte in The Hague, Netherlands, as of March 12, 2025. Though he is not there for his lies, and rather the violence that occurred during his presidency, it sets a legal basis for punishing former politicians, which can lead to future cases with currently sitting politicians. If one truly seeks to criminalize lying, then one must be able to clearly define what lies must be criminalized without infringing on both the constitutional right of the liar and without giving further legal basis for the suppression of the media. It becomes less of an ethical or moral problem, but rather a legal conundrum as to what lies can be criminalized, what lies can be legal, and what lies are not, regardless of position. Kant's theory of the ontology, while nice, does not fit as cleanly amongst the gray landscape of law and politics.